All right, now we're going to wrap up chapter 14. And remember, we're still in the two signs of chapter 12. The sign of the woman giving birth to those that are born of God's seed, those sons of God that are rising up to heaven. And the second sign, as Satan and those in heaven that followed him falling to earth. And as this woman's given birth to these sons of God, Satan is angry, enraged with her, because as he's going down, these are rising up. And as we go on, we will now draw a conclusion to these two signs, the sign of the woman giving birth to those sons of God, and the sign of Satan fallen down. Both will come to their conclusion. And we're now in Revelation 14:14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like a son of man, having a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. Why does it say here, of all things? And I looked, and behold, behold. Wow, John's amazed. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud. And what does it say? One like a son of man. Why would it say that of the Lord? It's definitely pointing to him. It's because we're in signs. John has not having a direct vision or revelation of the Lord. He's caught up in this sign. So in a sign, in a symbol, it's one like the Son of Man. And in verse 15, and another angel came out of the temple, crying out with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud. This another angel comes as this symbol, this type, this sign of the Son of Man. And that angel comes out, and he says to him, put in your sickle and reap, because the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe. This is where we will be drawing a conclusion to the sign of the woman, that where God has that relationship and that seed of his, that word that gives birth to the sons of God that rise to heaven. This is bringing that to a conclusion. And in verse 16, and he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. This is taking all of that harvest, all of those sons of God, all those rising up into heaven throughout the tribulation, but bringing it to a close at the end of the tribulation, when all of those, and it will be the last of those, in the Father's book of life, which became the Lamb's book of life, it will bring those things to a conclusion. And in verse 17, and another angel, now we have another angel come out, another message. God has something else to show you. Came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle. Here's another angel, another message. We had the woman, the fulfillment of the sign of the woman, as the Lord is reaping the earth, concluding that sign. And now we have another angel. And he comes out with a sharp sickle, another sickle. And in verse 18, and another angel, the one who has power over fire, came out from the altar. Who is this? Here we have this angel with a sharp sickle, and another angel comes out. And this is the angel, it says, who has power over fire, came from the altar. Which angel is this? Who are we talking about here? If you go back to Revelation chapter 8, and going from verse 3 to verse 5, we said that that was the coming of Elijah, the latter-day rain, as this angel had this incense which represented the prayers of God. And as the people were praying, as the tribulation started, as they were wholeheartedly seeking God, these went up before God. And what do we read in verse 5 there of chapter 8? And the angel, this same angel who had this incense and prayer, and the angel took the censer and he filled it with the fire of the altar and threw it to the earth. That, we said, was the coming of Elijah, the latter-day rain. This angel, like you saw in Acts, when tongues of fire fell upon him, the fire that the Lord wished was already kindled. This is the angel, and he has this fire, and he's there with the prayers of the saints. So now as we're going into this sign, the second sign, the sign of Satan and the reaping of the grapes of wrath, why is this angel bringing this message to the angel about to reap? Because this angel had the prayers of the saints. This angel brought the prayers of the saints, and the saints are praying for the end of these things, the end of Satan, the end of Satan's rule, so that the Lord will come and the Lord will rule. So this angel, the angel who had the power over fire, the angel from chapter 8, comes calling out with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle. To this second angel with a sickle, he's saying, put in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe. This is the ending of the second sign, the sign of Satan falling to earth. Him and those who followed him fall to earth as he's enraged with the woman. And now that he's come to earth through the last half of the tribulation and taken power, this will be those on earth too that follow him. They will go into the harvesting, the wrath of God. And in verse 19, and the angel, the one with the sickle, the angel swung his sickle to the earth and gathered the clusters of the vine of the earth and threw them into the great winepress of the wrath of God. This is now the conclusion of the second sign, the sign of Satan falling. We're coming down to where he's already on earth. And now it's just not him. It's those who followed him on earth. And in verse 20, and the winepress was trodden outside of the city, and blood came out from the winepress up to the horses' bridles for a distance of 200 miles. This has to do with as those armies will come against Israel and the last of the Jews at the end of the tribulation for the battle of the Armageddon. It's not them coming, and God's whole concern here is Israel, Jews is Jews. It's because they've turned to the Lord. They've accepted their Messiah. And now Satan's coming to destroy them. He's been purging them. He's been making them lay down their life. But now he's going to come for that battle. And this is what it refers to, right down to the end, the grapes of wrath. The conclusion of Satan's rule upon earth. And why does it say, and blood came out from the winepress up to the horse's bridle for 200 miles. Lots of this more ridiculous teaching on those that are on the broad road to destruction, that entered that broad and wide gate. They'll tell you that in this giant valley over there, there'll be so many people fighting and slain as the Lord returns, that blood will be up to a horse's bridle across that whole valley for 200 miles. That's ridiculous. If you've ever seen or been around war or seen documentaries on war, sometimes there's massive battles with massive slayings. The Jews and other armies around the world through the history of man, especially since the 1900s, have slain people by the tens of thousands, even made them get into pits and little graves they've dug, and they've shot them by the hundreds. The blood just quickly soaks into the ground. There's not blood rising up 5 feet, no matter how many people are being killed. So what's it talking about here? That the blood that'll be shed as the Lord returns and slays these people, that blood in a wine press, where the wine would come out of the wine press, that depth and up to a horse's bridle could go on for 200 miles, and that's how much blood it would fill. And that's what we have here. The conclusion, the climax of the 2 signs. The woman has given birth in the end to the last of the sons of God that were in the Father's book. And Satan, the second sign, has come to his conclusion, to his climax in the winepress of the wrath of God. As he now has fallen to earth, he's lost his rule and authority. By the end of the tribulation, he's even lost his rule and authority through man upon earth. And him and the angels and the men who followed him will now be going. And the Lord will bring their punishment in wrath. But as this concludes, the next message, I'll just give you a taste here, Lord. The next message, chapter 15, and I saw another sign. We've just concluded those 2 signs, and we'll go immediately into the third sign in chapter 15.